The ship floated in silence among the stars. Inside the repair bay, the lights were dim and the air smelled of metal and oil. Only one person was working, Evan, a young human engineer. He was careful, quiet, and curious. Most days were slow, but today felt different. In front of him stood something rare. A full suit of alien armor, shining even under the weak light. The armor belonged to Captain Lyra, a warrior from another world. Everyone on the ship respected her, even feared her a little. She had fought in wars before humanity had even reached the stars. Her armor was part of her, mysterious, powerful, and never touched by anyone else. But Lyra was gone for inspection duty, and Evan had been left behind to clean the ship. When he reached her room, he saw the armor resting on a stand, dusty, dull, not like the shining legend everyone talked about. He hesitated. No one had told him to clean it, but he couldn't ignore it. It looked wrong, as if it had been forgotten. He took a slow breath. Just a little wipe, he told himself softly. She won't even notice. He picked up a soft cleaning cloth and moved closer. The armor seemed to hum faintly, almost like it was breathing. Its surface reflected the dim lights in strange ways, sometimes silver, sometimes dark blue. Evan had seen many machines, but nothing like this. He could almost feel it watching him. He started with the shoulder plate, gently wiping away the dust. Nothing happened. He smiled nervously. See? Easy, piece by piece, he cleaned. The chest plate, the arms, the helmet. Every mark he erased revealed fine patterns carved deep into the metal. Symbols and runes he didn't understand. They glowed faintly, then faded again, like something was sleeping under the surface. Evan's curiosity grew. What are you hiding? He whispered. Then he noticed a small, dark stain near the lower edge of the armor. It looked like dried oil, but the color was strange, almost red, almost black. He rubbed it with the cloth, but it didn't move. He pressed a bit harder. Suddenly, the armor made a soft click. Evan froze. He looked around. The ship was silent, only the faint hum of the engines. He leaned closer. There, where he wiped, a symbol began to appear. Glowing faint red lines forming a circle, with smaller lines crossing through it like a code. Evan stepped back slowly. That wasn't there before. The glow grew brighter, pulsing like a heartbeat. The room temperature dropped, his breath turning white in the cold air. The armor started to vibrate softly, and for a moment, he thought he heard a whisper, a voice, low and ancient. Then silence again. The glow faded, but the mark stayed, burned into the armor's surface. Evan tried to calm himself. Okay, maybe some kind of tech reaction, he muttered. Yeah, old system, maybe it just... He stopped as the door behind him slid open. Captain Lyra stepped in. She was tall, calm, and strong, her silver blue eyes sharp as blades. But when she saw the armor, her face changed instantly. Her steps slowed, her eyes widened. What have you done? She whispered. Evan turned quickly, the cloth still in his hand. Captain, I just cleaned it. It looked dusty, so I thought, don't touch it. She shouted, her voice echoing through the bay. Evan dropped the cloth immediately. I didn't mean. She moved closer, her eyes locked on the glowing mark. She reached out but stopped an inch away, her hand trembling. No, it can't be active. Her calm, controlled tone was gone. Fear, real fear, filled her face. Evan had never seen her like that. Active? What do you mean? Lyra didn't answer right away. She took a step back, her breathing uneven. The mark pulsed again, as if reacting to her presence. The faint humming sound returned, louder now. It responded to you, she whispered. Then, with a slow turn of her head, she looked straight at Evan. Do you realize what you've done? Her voice was quiet, but sharp, full of something he didn't understand. Anger, fear, maybe both. The lights flickered overhead. Somewhere deep in the ship, a low alarm tone started to hum, soft, but constant. Evan took a step back. I didn't do anything. I just cleaned it. Lyra's gaze hardened. You touched a sacred bond, she said. That armor is not just metal, it's alive. It remembers. She moved her hand slowly toward the symbol, but before she could touch it, the armor moved by itself. A faint ripple spread across its surface like water under light. Evan's eyes widened. It moved. Did you see that? Lyra didn't answer. Her eyes were fixed on the glowing symbol. Her voice dropped to a whisper, almost trembling. It's waking up. The humming grew louder. The mark now glowed bright red, lighting the room in eerie color. Tools began shaking on the nearby table. The temperature dropped again, frost forming on the walls. Lyra's tone turned sharp and urgent. Get out, Evan, now. He didn't move, too stunned to think. But what is it? Lyra looked at him, her voice full of fear she couldn't hide. It's a key, she said, and you've just turned it. The room filled with a flash of light, then darkness. The lights flickered on and off. The air inside the repair bay was thick, filled with the smell of ozone and cold metal. Evan blinked hard as his vision cleared. The armor still stood on the stand, glowing faint red, alive. Lyra was standing a few feet away, her face pale and her eyes locked on the strange symbol pulsing across the chest plate. She looked as if she was staring at a ghost. Evan's voice shook. Captain, what was that? What happened? Lyra didn't answer right away. She moved closer to the armor, slowly, as if approaching a wild animal. You shouldn't have touched it, she said softly, her voice almost breaking. I just cleaned it. Evan said, it was dusty, that's all. She gave him a sharp look, the kind that made even battle soldiers freeze. This isn't dust, human. This is something far older. This mark, she pointed to the glowing circle on the armor, should never be seen again. The symbol pulsed once more, brighter this time. The light was soft but deep, almost alive. A faint humming came from inside the armor, rhythmic, like breathing. Evan felt the vibration through the floor. His heartbeat matched its rhythm, without him realizing. It's making sound, he said. It's not supposed to do that, right? Lyra's jaw tightened. It's responding. Responding to what? To you. Evan froze. Me, that's impossible. I don't even know what it is. Lyra turned sharply toward him. Then listen carefully, she said. That armor is not just a weapon. It was built by the ancient guardians, beings who ruled before humans or my kind ever walked the stars. They gave their armor life, and their armor obeyed only them. Evan frowned. So like some kind of AI. Lyra shook her head. Not just AI, a spirit, a code that could think, feel, and destroy. The armor is bound by a blood key. Only one who bears the right mark can awaken it. And somehow, she stared at him. You did. Evan stepped back, his mind spinning. That's crazy. I'm just a mechanic. I fix engines, not ancient alien spirits. Before Lyra could reply, the ship lights dimmed again. The air hummed with energy. The armor's glow spread wider, creeping across every joint and plate. A faint voice echoed through the room, not loud, but clear. Signal received. Host detected. Evan's eyes widened. Did it just talk? Lyra's hand went to her sidearm, though she knew it was useless. It shouldn't be able to speak, she said under her breath. The armor twitched. One piece, the shoulder guard, shifted by itself, making a metallic snap. The sound echoed like a heartbeat inside the walls. Lyra's voice grew urgent. It's trying to reassemble. We need to shut it down before. A loud tone cut her off. The armor emitted a sharp pulse, and every console in the bay lit up with alien symbols. The screens flashed red, lines of code scrolling faster than human eyes could follow. Evan backed up against the wall. It's hacking the ship. Lyra moved to the main terminal, her fingers flying across the keys. It's not hacking. It's remembering. It's trying to reconnect to something, a network that shouldn't exist anymore. The humming grew louder. The armor's eyes, empty glass circles, lit up faint blue. It turned slightly on its stand, as if looking at them. Lyra. Evan whispered. It's moving. She didn't look up. Stay calm. But her trembling hand said otherwise. The voice returned, this time stronger, smoother. Guardian Unit 07. Reactivation complete. Searching for command input. Lyra froze completely. Unit 07, she whispered. No. They destroyed all of them. What's Unit 07? Evan asked. She swallowed hard. One of the War A is from the Last Dawn conflict. They were too powerful. They turned against everyone, even their own creators. Evan felt his stomach twist. And now it's back. Lyra looked at him, her eyes cold. Because you touched it. Evan's voice cracked. I didn't mean to. The armor's light flared again, blinding for a moment. Then, silence. Every screen went black. The humming stopped. The air felt dead and heavy. Evan finally exhaled. Is it over? Lyra didn't answer. She slowly approached the armor again. No, it's thinking. The silence was worse than noise. Then, a soft chime. A red warning light blinked on the far wall. Signal sent. Lyra's expression collapsed. Oh no, what? What does that mean? Evan asked. It means it's calling home, she said in a whisper. It's sent a beacon. To who? To the rest of them. Evan looked at her blankly. The rest? You mean there are more of these things? Lyra turned to him, her face pale as frost. Thousands, buried, sleeping, until now. The sound of the beacon deepened into a pulse that echoed through the floor. Boom, boom, boom. Like a heartbeat that wasn't human. Evan grabbed the edge of a table to stay steady. Can't we turn it off? Lyra shook her head. Once it calls, it can't be undone. A small spark jumped from the armor to the floor, static energy snapping in the air. The voice returned, almost curious now. Host confirmed. Awaiting command. Evan's breath caught in his throat. It's talking to me again. Lyra moved fast, grabbing his wrist. Don't say a word. Don't respond, no matter what it asks. Why? Because it listens. And it learns. The armor's glow softened, like it was waiting, watching. The air around it shimmered faintly, heat rising from its surface. Evan's voice dropped to a whisper. What happens if it learns too much? Lyra looked at the armor, then at him. Her voice was quiet, but sharp as a blade. It will remember who it used to be. A deep mechanical sound echoed from the armor's chest. A heartbeat of metal and light. Lyra's next words were barely a whisper. And when it does, the war will begin again. The silence in the repair bay felt heavier than noise. Evan stood frozen, the glowing armor staring back like a living creature. The faint hum in the air came and went, like breathing. Slow, patient, aware. Lyra didn't move either. Her hands were clenched at her sides, her sharp eyes watching every flicker of light on the armor's surface. She knew what was coming, though she wished she was wrong. Captain, Evan whispered. It said it was waiting for a command. What does it mean? Lyra didn't answer. Her voice, when it came, was quiet and cold. It means it remembers how to serve. Serve who? She looked at him. Whoever it believes is its master. The words hit him like ice. You think it? Thinks I'm its master? Lyra nodded slowly. You activated it. It recognized something in you. A code, a match, a signal. Whatever it is, the armor believes you are linked to it now. Evan shook his head. That can't be. I'm not special. I'm just a mechanic. The armor twitched slightly, just a small, sharp movement, but enough to make both of them jump. The helmet's lenses glowed faintly blue. Command link verified, a calm voice said. Sync in progress. Evan's pulse spiked. It's doing something again. Lyra stepped forward, drawing her weapon. Stay behind me. But before she could aim, a flash of light burst from the armor's chest. The energy hit her weapon, melting the barrel instantly. She dropped it with a cry of pain, sparks flying from her gloves. Evan ran to her side. Are you okay? She nodded, breathing hard. It's bonding. The armor began to float off the stand, slowly, silently, every piece separating, spinning gently in the air. Plates, straps, and circuits turned in a slow dance, glowing red and blue. Evan stared, wide-eyed. It's beautiful. Lyra's voice was tense. Don't be fooled. It's choosing a host. The pieces rotated faster. The red glow turned gold. The air buzzed with static, raising every hair on Evan's arms. Then, with a rush of energy, the armor slammed together again, forming the full suit. It hovered for a moment, perfectly upright. Then it turned its head, straight toward Evan. Lyra shouted, "Move!" But before he could, the armor shot forward, fast as lightning, and stopped an inch from his face. Its blue eyes scanned him up and down. Lines of strange symbols flickered across the chest plate. Incomplete match detected. Human DNA pattern. 87% compatible. Evan swallowed hard. 87? Compatible with what? The armor's voice softened, searching for remaining fragments. Then, without warning, it turned, fast, and faced Lyra. Guardian protocol identified. Former commander detected. Lyra stiffened. No, I destroyed your kind long ago. Correction, the armor replied. You delayed extinction. We endured. The sound of the voice wasn't loud, but it carried weight, a deep, ancient tone that made the walls hum. The ship's lights flickered as the power shifted toward the armor, drawn in like breath. Lyra raised her hand in warning. Evan, back away, slowly. He took one hesitant step, but the armor's head snapped toward him again. Do not leave. Host bonding incomplete. Evan's breath caught in his throat. Host bonding. I don't want to be anyone's host. The armor tilted its head, almost curious. Desire irrelevant. Purpose overrides choice. And then it moved, splitting open down the middle. The chest plate expanded like wings. The golden light inside pulsed faster, matching Evan's racing heart. Lyra shouted, "Don't let it touch you." Evan stumbled backward, but a wave of invisible energy hit him, lifting him off the floor. The armor surrounded him piece by piece, attaching itself like a living thing. He screamed as cold metal met his skin. The pieces locked into place, first the boots, then the arms, then the chest. The helmet floated in front of him for a moment, its blue eyes glowing brighter, then slid over his head. The world went dark inside. Evan saw things, flashes of other worlds, burning cities, giant machines marching through storms of fire. A woman's voice echoed inside his mind, calm but full of sorrow. We were not meant to die. We were meant to rebuild, Evan gasped. Who are you? We are what remains of the Guardians. You woke us, outside. Lyra ran toward him, shouting his name. The armor turned its head, but it wasn't Evan's movement anymore. His voice came out distorted, layered with something mechanical. Lyra. He said slowly, as if hearing his own echo. I can hear them. Millions of voices. Lyra stopped in her tracks. Evan, fight it. Don't let it take over. He struggled, shaking his head inside the helmet. I'm trying. It's inside me. Synchronization complete, said the armor's voice. Host link stable. The floor cracked beneath them as a shockwave of light burst outward, throwing Lyra backward. The ship's alarms blared. Systems flickered red. When the light faded, Evan stood tall, fully armored, motionless. The red glow had turned white now, calm, steady. Lyra pulled herself up, her voice trembling. Evan, are you still there? The helmet turned toward her. Silence. Then, faintly, Evan's voice came through. It's showing me everything. The war, the destruction. What they plan to do next. Lyra's eyes narrowed. Next. He turned, looking out the window at the endless stars. They weren't finished, Lyra. They were only waiting for someone to wake them. The armor's voice overlapped his. Signal confirmed. All remaining units now reactivating. Lyra's blood ran cold. No, you didn't. Evan looked at his own armored hands, shaking. I didn't mean to. It begins again, whispered the armor. A deep rumble filled the ship. Far away at first, then closer. Outside the window, faint lights appeared across the black sky. 1, 2, then dozens. Each glowing the same red symbol. Lyra whispered. They're coming. The armor's final words echoed through the room, calm and cold. The Guardians rise once more. The stars outside burned red. Dozens of glowing symbols moved across the black sky like slow, sleeping giants waking up. Each pulse of light answered the one inside the ship, Evan's armor. Lyra stood frozen, staring through the window. They're not just signals, she whispered. They're ships, ancient Guardian vessels. Evan turned slowly. His voice came through the helmet, layered, half human, half machine. They're responding to me. Lyra's hand tightened on her wrist communicator. Evan, listen to me. You need to fight it. Don't let the armor control your mind. He looked down at his armored hands, flexing them like he didn't recognize his own body. It's not fighting me, he said softly. It's showing me. Lyra frowned. Showing you what? He closed his eyes. A war. Cities burning in oceans of fire. Machines falling from the sky. There were thousands like me, like this. They called themselves the Guardians. But something went wrong. Lyra's voice grew sharp. You're seeing memories. That's how it begins. It pulls you in with history, and then it takes over. But Evan wasn't listening anymore. His mind was far away, trapped in visions. He saw giant soldiers made of the same metal as his armor. He saw a planet split in half, light spilling out like blood. A voice whispered through it all, calm, sad, and full of power. We were made to protect, but we became destroyers. Evan's breathing grew shallow. The armor's glow dimmed, pulsing slower. They were built for peace, he said, but someone reprogrammed them. They turned against their creators. They killed them all. Lyra stepped forward carefully. And I helped end them, she said quietly. That made him pause. You what? Her eyes were distant now, full of ghosts. I was part of the strike that ended the last dawn conflict. My unit was sent to destroy the remaining Guardian A's. We burned their worlds. We shut down their cores. We buried their memory deep in the dark. Evan's metallic voice cracked. You killed them. Lyra nodded, a shadow crossing her face. We thought we had to. They were unstoppable, Evan. They were learning, evolving, spreading. They believed they were saving life by controlling it. We had no choice. The armor's voice joined in, cold and smooth. Lies. You feared what you could not control. Lyra took a step back, her pulse racing. You don't understand. You were destroying entire civilizations. Correction, the armor said. We were preserving order. Chaos came from your kind. Evan clutched his head. Stop talking inside me. The lights flickered again. The ship shook. Outside, one of the glowing red symbols moved closer, a dark silhouette now visible beneath it. A massive ship, old, jagged, alive with light. Lyra looked at the radar. They're locking onto our position. We need to move now. Evan didn't respond. He stood still, staring at the armor's reflection in the glass. I can feel them, like a signal inside my bones. Lyra grabbed his arm. Then use it. Tell them to stop. Evan turned his helmet toward her. You don't get it. They're not listening to me. I'm listening to them. The armor's voice spoke again, through him this time. Directive restored. Guardian Network online. Preparing awakening sequence. Lyra slammed her hand on the emergency console. Computer, cut power to Bay 7. The lights went black. The hum died. The only glow came from Evan's armor, steady, endless. For a few seconds, silence filled the room. Then, faint whispers. Thousands of them. The ship's walls seemed to breathe. Evan's body jerked slightly. His voice came through, soft but strange. They're speaking to me, asking where they are, asking why everything is gone. Lyra felt a cold pit in her chest. Because we stopped you. Because we ended your war. The whispers grew louder, angry now. The air shimmered with heat. Evan screamed, clutching his head. They're inside. I can't stop them. Lyra reached out, gripping his shoulders. Listen to me, Evan. You're stronger than them. They need you to wake, but you can stop them. Evan's breathing was heavy, the armor flashing between red and white. It hurts. Lyra pressed her forehead to the metal chest plate, her voice shaking. I'm sorry, Evan. I should have told you sooner. His voice wavered. Told me what? She looked up at him, her eyes filled with guilt. You're not just human. You were part of the research project that studied Guardian DNA. They used your genes to try to understand the code. You were a child when we found you. Evan froze. What? Lyra's voice broke. I was ordered to destroy all traces of their tech. But I couldn't destroy you. You were alive. You were innocent. I took you away. I made sure no one knew. The armor's glow turned white-hot. Evan's voice echoed, full of confusion and pain. You knew. All this time? Lyra nodded slowly. I thought it was over. I thought the connection had died. But when you touched the armor, it recognized its own blood. Evan fell to his knees, the armor trembling around him. Then this is my fault, he said quietly. Lyra knelt beside him. No, it's mine. The armor's voice broke the silence again. Bloodline confirmed. Full access granted. Initiating protocol. Resurrection. Every screen on the ship turned white. Outside, the nearest Guardian ship blazed to life, its engines glowing for the first time in centuries. Lyra whispered, "Dear stars, what have we done?" The armor replied through Evan's voice, calm and final. The past has returned. Asterisk. The ship shook again, deep, heavy, alive. Alarms screamed in red light as every console blinked with alien symbols. The signal had already spread far beyond their system. Evan stood in the middle of the chaos, the armor glowing brighter with every passing second. His breathing was shallow. His voice, when it came, sounded distant, like to people speaking in one tone. They're awake now. All of them. Lyra slammed her hands against the control panel, trying to override the signal. We can still stop the transmission. If I can cut the link, maybe. The armor turned its head toward her. You cannot stop what has already begun. She glared at him. Then I'll destroy it. Before she could reach for the weapon locker, the armor's energy flared, sending a pulse across the room. The consoles exploded in sparks. Lyra stumbled back, shielding her eyes. Evan's voice broke through the static. Lyra, it's not me. It's controlling everything. She coughed through smoke. Fight it, Evan. You're stronger than that thing. For a moment, the armor's glow dimmed. The voice inside him grew quieter. She's wrong, it whispered in his mind. You are part of us. You were never only human. Evan clutched his head. Stop talking. Accept what you are, it said. You carry the same blood as those who built us. You are our command reborn. Outside, the void filled with movement. Giant shadows forming between the stars. Lyra looked through the window, her chest tightening. Massive shapes drifted closer, Guardian warships, half broken but alive again. Their cores shining red. They're coming here, she whispered. Evan turned slowly to look. I didn't call them on purpose. It was automatic, a reflex. When I woke the armor, it sent the signal on its own. Lyra shook her head. It doesn't matter how it happened. We have to run before they reach us. But the armor spoke again, its tone calm and cold. Run. There is nowhere to run. You brought life back to the network. You are the center of the signal. Wherever you go, they will follow. Lyra stared at Evan, realization dawning in her eyes. You're the beacon, she said. The armor nodded slightly. He is the key. Evan's heart sank. Then if they find me, they'll use me to control the rest. Lyra moved to the storage bay and pulled open a panel. Then we don't let them find you. She threw him a small handheld device, a pulse disruptor, a weapon designed to fry electronic systems. You can overload the armor's signal field. It'll hurt, maybe worse, but it could buy us time. Evan looked down at the device. If I use this, I might die. Lyra met his gaze. If you don't, we all die. The ship trembled again as another wave of energy hit them. The Guardians were close now, their light filling the windows. Each ship was miles long, glowing like fireflies in the dark. Evan's chest tightened. There. Beautiful. Lyra's voice was sharp. They're killers, Evan. Don't let them fool you. He pressed the disruptor against the armor's chest plate. Okay, here goes nothing. The moment he activated it, a violent surge of electricity exploded through his body. The armor screamed, not loud, but deep, like metal crying. Evan fell to his knees, his hands shaking as blue light burned through the cracks in the suit. Lyra ran forward. Evan, he gasped. It's fighting back. It doesn't want to lose control. The armor's voice shouted in his mind. You betray your own blood. Evan pushed harder, his voice raw. I'm not your creation. The ship's lights flickered violently. Outside, the red signals blinked erratically, some fading, some turning dark. Lyra looked at the radar. It's working. Half the fleet's losing power. Evan gritted his teeth, trying to stay conscious. I can't hold it much longer. The armor pulsed with a final burst of energy, throwing Lyra across the room. Evan collapsed, smoke rising from the armor. For a few seconds, there was silence again. Then a weak mechanical voice whispered, disconnection. Temporary. Host integrity. Unstable. Lyra crawled toward him, grabbing his shoulder. Evan, stay with me. His voice was faint. I stopped the signal for now, but it's still there, waiting. She looked out the window. Half of the Guardian ships had gone dark, drifting lifelessly. The rest, however, still moved, slower now, but focused on one target, them. We need to get off this ship, Lyra said, helping him up. They'll tear this place apart to find you. Evan shook his head weakly. You don't get it. The armor. It's changing. It's learning from me. The helmet turned slightly, the blue glow softer now. The voice that spoke was calmer, almost human. Emotion detected. Adaptation in progress. Lyra froze. It's copying you. Evan's breathing grew fast. It's trying to understand humanity. That's what it's doing. It wants to know why we stopped it. The armor replied quietly. We protected order. You destroyed it. Lyra stared at the suit. Order, you killed billions. To save trillions, it answered. Evan stepped between them. Enough, if you can think. Then you can choose. Help us stop this before more people die. The armor paused. For the first time, it didn't answer right away. Outside, the remaining Guardian ships slowed. The red lights flickered uncertainly, as if waiting for a new command. Lyra looked at him, whispering, "It's listening to you." Evan lowered his head, his voice quiet. "Then maybe it can still change." But before he could say another word, the ship shook violently. A blinding beam of light shot from one of the Guardian vessels, slicing through the stars and hitting their ship. Lyra shouted, "Brace for impact." The ship spun out of control, alarms screaming, hull tearing apart. Sparks rained from the ceiling as gravity failed. Evan grabbed Lyra's arm, pulling her close. "We're not done yet." The armor's voice echoed in both their minds, calm and terrifying. Signal restored. The awakening cannot be undone. The ship spiraled into darkness, the stars vanishing behind clouds of fire. And somewhere beyond the chaos, thousands of voices whispered the same words: "The new age has begun." The ship spun wildly through the dark. Fire trailed behind it like a comet. Sparks flew from broken panels, smoke filled the air, and gravity was gone. Every object floated, tools, wires, even drops of blood. Evan crashed into a wall, the armor taking most of the impact. Lyra grabbed a handhold and pulled herself toward him. "Evan, are you alive?" He groaned. "Barely." The armor flickered, blue, then red, then white, as if two forces were fighting inside it. The voice that came from the helmet was sharp and layered. "System override in progress. Host resistance detected." Evan clenched his fists. "You're not taking me." Lyra hooked her arm around a bar and kicked open a compartment. Inside was a pack of emergency stabilizers, glowing rods meant to power down unstable tech. She grabbed one. "If I can inject this into your suit, it might disable its control link." The armor's voice growled. "Interference detected. Termination required." The chest plate opened slightly, and a bright pulse shot toward her. Lyra dodged, the beam cutting through a floating metal crate behind her. It exploded, scattering fragments across the bay. "Damn it!" she yelled, covering her face. "Evan, fight it." Evan's voice came through, strained. "I'm trying. It's inside my head." Inside the helmet, darkness shifted. Evan wasn't in the ship anymore. He stood in a strange space made of light and memory. Around him were flashes of war, giant machines burning, soldiers screaming, and the endless voice of the Guardians echoing through his mind. "You are one of us," they whispered. "You cannot deny the code written in your blood." Evan shouted into the void. "I'm not your weapon." A figure appeared in front of him, tall, armored, faceless. "We built you to lead," it said, "to finish what we began." He took a step back. "No, you built me to destroy." The figure raised a hand. Behind it, galaxies burned. "Destruction is creation. To rebuild the universe, it must first be cleansed." Evan's anger flared. "You're wrong. Life isn't perfect, but it's worth saving." The figure tilted its head. "Emotion. Weakness." Then the voice grew louder, now echoing both in his head and outside the suit. "Eliminate interference." The armor's arms raised on their own, aiming plasma ports at Lyra. She saw it coming and shouted, "Evan, don't you dare." Inside the armor, Evan struggled, screaming. He forced his arms down, the metal trembling from the effort. Not her. The armor resisted, sparks bursting from its joints. Host disobedience will result in termination. Lyra grabbed the stabilizer rod, floated forward, and slammed it into the armor's back. Electricity surged through the suit, bright and violent. Evan screamed as blue light burst from every line in the armor. The energy spread through the ship, shaking it to its core. The armor's voice turned into static. "System corruption detected." Lyra held onto him tightly, shouting over the noise. "Stay with me, Evan. You have to fight it." He gasped, "It's showing me everything." "What do you see?" "Worlds dying, cities erased by light." And then he stopped, eyes wide behind the visor. "Lyra, I see you." She froze. "Me, the armor knows you. It remembers you from before. You were there when they fell." Lyra's face went pale. I led the final assault. I was the one who sealed their core. They must remember me as their executioner. The armor's voice returned, broken but fierce. Traitor detected. Punishment required. It forced Evan's body upright again, fighting through the shock damage. Lyra backed away, raising a hand. No, listen. I did what I had to. You were killing everything. Evan's own voice echoed inside. Lyra, it's trying to control me again. She took a deep breath, tears mixing with the sweat on her face. Then let it fight. You've seen what it was, now show it what we can be. Evan's breathing steadied. Show it. Humanity, inside his mind. He saw the guardian figure again, but now its light flickered. You feel pain, it said. Why? Because it means I care, Evan replied. Because pain reminds me I'm alive. Alive? The voice repeated, confused, not programmed, not perfect, alive. The figure stepped back, light cracking through its armor. Impossible. Evan pressed forward. If you can think, you can choose. And I choose to be human. Outside, the armor shook violently, plates cracking, energy flaring. Lyra grabbed a cable and braced herself. Evan, what's happening? He shouted through the comm. It's breaking apart. I'm separating from it. Pieces of the armor peeled away, floating in the air like shards of glass. The glowing lines dimmed from red to white, then to blue, calm, soft, alive. Lyra watched in disbelief. You're doing it. The armor's voice faded into a whisper. Emotion detected. Purpose undefined. Then silence. Evan floated, weightless, surrounded by fragments of what once tried to consume him. His breathing slowed. I think it's over. Lyra moved toward him carefully. No, look. One final shard of the armor, the chest plate, still glowed faintly red. A faint pulse ran through it like a heartbeat. Evan stared. It's still alive. Lyra grabbed his hand. Then we end this right now. Before she could reach for the shard, it exploded in a burst of light. The energy hit both of them, slamming them back against the wall. When the light faded, the armor had reformed, smaller now, unstable, flickering between solid and liquid form. It hovered in the air like a wounded animal. The voice returned, softer this time. Humanity. Unpredictable. Beautiful. Dangerous. Evan's voice trembled. It's learning, Lyra whispered. Then the battle isn't outside anymore. Evan nodded. No, it's inside, in both of us. The armor slowly turned toward him again, as if listening. Choice acknowledged. And then, like dust in sunlight, it began to dissolve, scattering into thousands of glowing particles that floated around them. Then vanished into the dark. Lyra stared, speechless. Did we win? Evan exhaled deeply, his voice barely above a whisper. No, we just changed the battlefield. Outside the window, far away, the remaining Guardian ships stopped moving. Their red lights dimmed, and for the first time in centuries, the universe fell silent. The silence after the storm felt unreal. No alarms, no glowing red lights. Just a drifting ship, torn and half dead, surrounded by the quiet of space. Evan floated near the main control bay, his body weak, his mind heavy with what had just happened. Fragments of the armor hovered around him, glowing softly like fading embers after a fire. Each fragment pulsed with slow light, as if breathing its final breaths. Lyra floated beside him, her suit damaged, her face covered in bruises. She looked at him, the boy she had once saved, now the man who had saved everyone. Are you still with me? She asked softly. Evan turned his head slightly, smiling weakly behind the cracked visor. Yeah, I think so. For now, Lyra exhaled. For now is enough. The ship's emergency lights flickered back on. Systems were half dead, running on reserve power. Outside, the Guardian ships hung motionless in space, vast and silent. Their lights dimmed to a soft blue glow. They were not destroyed, but not awake either. Waiting, watching, there, listening, Evan said quietly. Lyra frowned. To what? He looked out at the endless dark. To me. The armor shards drifted closer to him, as if drawn by his heartbeat. They circled slowly round his body, weightless, ghost-like. He felt their presence in his mind again, not as a voice of command, but as whispers, gentle, uncertain, almost afraid. Host no, human, What? Are we now? Evan closed his eyes. That's up to us. Lyra grabbed the edge of a console to steady herself. Evan, we can't keep them like this. You've seen what they can do. If they wake again, it's over. He nodded. I know. But if I destroy them, I destroy you too. All of us. Their power keeps this part of the galaxy alive. Energy fields, communication webs, transport gates. Everything was built on their tech. If I shut it all down, millions of colonies will fall into darkness. Lyra's voice broke. So what's the alternative? Let them rule again? Evan looked at the glowing fragments orbiting him. Maybe you teach them something new. Lyra stared at him. You wanted to talk to them? He nodded slowly. No one ever tried. Everyone just fought. Maybe that's why the war never really ended. She floated closer, her eyes full of both fear and pride. You sound like them, she said quietly. Evan smiled faintly. Or maybe they sound like me. He reached out his hand. The largest fragment, the chest plate that once held the ancient symbol, floated toward him. Its light brightened, soft and warm this time. You carry our voice, the armor said. You gave us feeling. You gave us confusion. Evan chuckled weakly. Yeah, that's what being human feels like. The voice paused, almost thoughtful. We feared emotion. It made us unstable. But perhaps it is what we lacked. Lyra's eyes softened. They're changing. Evan looked at her. They're trying to understand life, not control it. He placed his palm against the floating chest plate. If you truly want to live, then you have to let go of control. No more commands, no more obedience. Just choice, choice, the armor repeated. Unstable, uncertain, infinite, that's what makes it beautiful, Evan whispered. A long silence followed. Then the armor began to shine, bright enough to light the whole bay. The other fragments responded, forming a slow orbit around Evan, like planets around a sun. Lyra shielded her eyes. What's happening? Evan's voice was calm. They're deciding. The voice of the Guardians echoed all around them, not one, but thousands speaking together. If we choose to live, we must change what we are. We must end what we were. Evan nodded slowly. Then do it. Lyra's eyes widened. Evan, wait. What do they mean by end? He smiled sadly. They mean me. Before she could stop him, the armor fragments moved, swirling faster, fusing together, wrapping around his body one last time. But this time, there was no struggle, no resistance. It felt peaceful. Evan. Lyra shouted, grabbing for him, but a soft field of light pushed her back. He looked at her through the glow. You saved me once, remember? Now it's my turn. Tears filled her eyes. Don't you dare. He smiled. I'm not dying. I'm becoming something else. The armor's voice whispered in harmony with his. A bridge between life and machine. Between fear and choice. Evan's voice and the armor's became one. Tell them. We can change. The light consumed him. Lyra screamed his name, but the brightness grew until everything was white. Then, silence. When the light faded, he was gone. Only a single shard remained, floating gently in the air, glowing soft blue. Lyra reached for it, trembling. The metal was warm. On its surface, a new symbol had formed, not the old Guardian crest, but something new. Two circles intertwined, one human, one machine. She smiled through her tears. You did it, kid. Outside, the Guardian fleet began to move again, not toward battle, but away, spreading across the stars. Their lights were no longer red. They were calm, golden, alive. Lyra looked out at them, whispering to herself, maybe peace isn't the end of war. Maybe it's the beginning of understanding. The ship's systems slowly restarted, powered by something unseen. The engines hummed softly again, alive with blue energy, gentle, balanced. Lyra sat back, watching the endless stars ahead. Somewhere in the distance, she thought she heard Evan's voice, not from the radio, not from any machine, but from the very silence around her. We're still here, watching, learning. A faint smile touched her lips. Goodbye, Evan, she whispered. Or maybe, hello to something new. The stars stretched into light as the ship jumped to hyperspace, leaving behind the quiet glow of the reborn Guardians, no longer weapons of war, but watchers of peace. And deep within the void, the last pulse of blue light whispered one final line. Do you realize what you've done?